so lucky that we've been able to secure arguably the busiest man at the festival, Lil Buck. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I'm pretty busy. Good to be here, though.
All right, so we're just going to get started. We only have you for a limited time, so we're looking forward to speaking with you. Can you tell us a little bit how you originally got your start in dance?
Absolutely. So I grew up dancing with my older sister. Her name is Stephanie Moore. She was a majorette. If you don't know what a majorette is in the South, they twirl batons, they get down. So I used to always go to her jamborees, that's what they call them, and see her perform, and I was inspired by her, and then that's what got me into wanting to dance. And so I started dancing with her a lot, and then we started watching a lot of Michael Jackson tapes, together. We'd catch his tour tapes. I don't know how we get them. I don't know if my mom bought them. I forget. But we used to watch his tour tapes all the time and just watch them until we learned every routine that they had on tour. And then we would do the same for music videos that came on TV. And then that was when I was in, Chicago and in Memphis. So I was born in Chicago, and then we moved to Memphis when I was 8 years old. So we moved to Memphis. I really started, getting into the hobby of dancing. And then one day, when I was going to, I think it was my last year of middle school, and my sister was in high school at this time. She came back home, and we would get home at different times because, in middle school in Memphis, it's like 3:15 you get home, and then you get home at 2:15 from the high school. So like we had to be in there a little longer. So I got home one day, and she was in the living room just hitting this move that you always see me do now. And I was like, what is that? And she was like, this is Jookin. My friend Jeff and I taught me how to jook. And then I loved it. I fell in love with the whole groove of it, the music. And then I was just, ever since then, she started teaching me. That's how I got into it. I grew to love it. And it became my first love and for anything. And my sister was more into, it was still a hobby for her. She was a shoe collector. She liked sneakers. She was a sneakerhead. She was like that type of person. So she's living her dream right now, working. She manages like 2 different Foot Lockers and all that stuff, and she loves it. And I just kept pursuing that dream of dance. I just stuck with the dance, and that's how I got started.
Can you tell us a little bit about Jookin? Because it's a style that you really helped bring to the forefront.
Yes,
of the dance
a lot
world.
of people mistake me as the founder of the style, and I am not that. It came well before me. I was born in '88. Jookin started like around that time, around the mid to late '80s. And it started evolving in the early 90s so Memphis Jookin is a dance style that's native to Memphis, Tennessee. It's an indigenous street dance from there. And it's been around for over 40 years, like I said. And I got into it when I was 12 years old. For people who don't know, it's a dance style that the nucleus of it is the bounce. It's this bounce. It's this very rhythmic bounce that we get. It's a full body bounce. It's like when you listen to any song you love and you start bouncing your head. But this is like a full body bounce. We really show that we love this music and we're into it. We really get into it till your whole body starts bouncing. And then from that, the steps, come out of it. And the steps come out, but you don't compromise the bounce. You keep the bounce during the whole time. And this is what separate. This is how you recognize it as Jookin. You see these different steps and this different gliding and sliding and footwork and toe spins, but this bounce is still there. It never leaves. And that's how you can really recognize it. And like I said, I told you when it started. That's how you can see Jookin. And I just pretty much innovated Jookin by adding my own personal style to it. Jookin is like, it has foundation, but at the same time it's like 80% creativity. So you learn that 20%, foundation and everything, and then everything else is just your own creativity.
So one of the more astounding aspects of Jookin is, especially as ballet dancers who, we see people dance on point all day long, but the footwork that Jookin is comprised of is so impressive. Is that something you have to build up to? You said like there's foundation.
Yes, so there's a lot of foundation in footwork as well. Pac-Mans, point toes, push toes, level 3 buck jumps. There's different types of levels to all of the foundation, foundational moves that we do. That started off as the gangster walk is a foundational move, the buck jump, which is what you always see me do. And there's different levels of that. There's different levels of footwork, of glides. So there's a lot of foundation in it. And what I love about Memphis Jookin is that you can have that room for creativity. And that's why you guys always see me like change up at least a little bit in some of my routines, because I love that option of having, just living in the moment. So Jookin is about that. It's about, just dancing your life. living your lifestyle and just sharing your lifestyle through movement with other people and what we're going through in our environment. So, and my particular style was really flexible. Like my body was already flexible before I started Jookin. I found these little things out I can bend my ankles in. And, but a lot of, I just have a crazy brain, and I'm like, it's like the Willy Wonka factory in here in my mind. So like, I couldn't wait to find a dance style like this. You know, I was like, yes, I can really use my creativity. How can I? So I was like living every day trying to figure out, okay, how can I change up this? Or how can I do this different from this person? Or how can I was always like that for years. And that's how I kind of developed my own style of dance and how I move.
So speaking of ballet, some people might be surprised to know that you did study ballet for 2 years, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people think I learned, I don't know, they say when they see me spin on my toes, I must have done ballet. And I'm like, I didn't get any of that from ballet. But I mean, I got the posture actually from ballet, how that pull, you know, that. And so I use a lot of the ballet technique within my Jookin. But Jooker's been spinning on their toes, longer than before they even knew ballet dancers were doing it. I got into ballet because I saw that and I was like, I want to be able to do that longer. I don't want to just come up on my toe and come back down like the rest of the Jookers. I want to be able to stay up there. How do they stay up there? And how do they emote the emotion from the music so well, you know? And I know we can do that through hip hop. We can emote the emotion of the music all day, but I always was a fan of changing and switching it up, the different music, you know, types that I'm dancing to, just to see, you know, where I'm at, you know, just to see how versatile I can be.
Yeah.
Did you study any other dance styles other than ballet? You said you started with
yes.
Jookin, but was
so I studied ballet when I was 16. I got into it, and then I had to leave. I moved from Memphis when I was 19. So it was like 3.5 years, almost 4 years. Actually, I was 20, so it was about 4 years that I've studied ballet in Memphis, Tennessee at a school called New Ballet Ensemble. And I've also, so through the ballet company, we've had different companies come in because just like she was different from anybody in Memphis. We would learn hip hop there. I would have a course where I would be teaching Jookin there, and then you know, some of the ballet company members would teach the hip hop dancers from the group that I was in called Subculture Royalty. So we would use that space as space where we can rehearse our hip hop, you know, routines and everything. So I was a part of a hip hop group and the ballet company. And they'd also bring in, because once I became a company member of the ballet, they would bring in like the Martha Graham company dancers and Twyla. We learned Twyla Tharp. We learned a lot of different jazz. We learned about Fosse. It was a lot. It was a
quite.
It was like a gumbo of information, you know.
So you performed with so many different artists, celebrities. You've been on the Ellen Show and Super Bowl, but there had to have been a moment that you kind of launched your career. Do you look back and think like this was the time that set everything in motion?
Well, I was planning to set a lot of things in motion, and then things started moving faster than I can imagine because I was relentless. When I moved to LA, I had to be, because I was broke and I only had a friend to live with. Like literally one friend that I only knew him over the phone. And I met him for like 2 days when I flew out to LA for a music video. So I moved back with this friend, and he let me stay with him as long as I taught him some like beginner Jookin every morning. He didn't have he didn't have a problem with it. His fiance didn't have a problem with it. So I moved there with them, and I was living in Crenshaw in LA, and that's when I started to grind. But it was I kind of strayed away from the question. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
It was just like, what was the moment that you
feel
the
like moment. That's what it was. So when I moved out to LA is when Damien Wetzel found that clip of me performing the Swan, and I think that was the moment. Like I've tried to build up these moments, and I was doing auditions in LA as a dancer. I was doing music videos. I was working on choreographing, and then out of the blue, Damien Wetzel hit me up on Facebook and was like, "Do you know this guy named Yo-Yo Ma?" And I was like, "Who? Yo what?" I did my research, of course. And long story short, we both linked together at the Disney Hall in LA, and that was actually the first time we performed the Swan together. Nobody was there except like a few people. Yo-Yo Ma gave me the biggest hug of my life and took me into the hallway and said, "I want to try something." And then he just opened his case and didn't say a word after that and just started playing. And I just started dancing, and Damien and a few more people were there. And that was the first time it happened. And then after that, because they invited me. They were doing some, some work with arts in education. So they had a meeting out there at Brian Lord's place on the arts and education and how different people and celebrities. It was film directors, all type of people who were supporting the arts at this place. And they invited me there, and that's where we first performed The Swan live in front of everybody. And Spike Jones recorded it, and that was that moment. That kind of shot everything, because people, I think that's the moment when people really saw the versatility of the true versatility of street dance, and it's been happening before. People have been mixing street dance with classical before, but I guess that's the first time people actually saw it done how I've done it.
Yeah. So let's talk about your organization that you founded with John Books, who is going to be at the festival later. I think he arrives today.
Yeah, he arrives today.
Awesome. So Movement Art is. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so MAI is a company me and John Books founded around almost 4 years ago. And we thought about this when we were in, where were we? We were in Powder Mountain, Utah for this event called The Summit. It was a summit, but it's called Summit. And it was, it just brings community together. They build communities. They build, they literally build communities. They bought Powder Mountain, these guys, our friends, and they, in Utah, and they built a whole community in there, housing, everything. And it's beautiful. And we were out there and we were just thinking of, at this summit, and we were just getting to meet so many different people that you really normally wouldn't get to meet. And we were just thinking and just hearing how many important things they're doing for the world and how they're using their strengths to do that, as a tool. And we were like, man, we'd always looked up to Gene Kelly's and Fred Astaire's and Michael Jackson and people who actually, and, even art, different artists, Nina Simone, people who actually use their art and use their form of expression as a tool to really push more powerful messages and things that are happening in their environment. And me and John Books was really thinking about that, and we were like, man, we should start a company and to really just get out what we feel and what we the story we want to tell deeper than us. And we started thinking of different things that happen in our environment, different things that we've been through personally, and then we made up Movement Art Is. We were like, we want to leave it wide open, because movement can be whatever you want it to be. That's it's a tool like that. It can be for entertainment. It can be to push important messages. It can be to tell certain stories, for storytelling, for anything. So we called it MAI, and we've been just producing our own films, and we created that company again because we always want to have films and see dance films in such a different way. We wanted to see dance tell different stories, and not just, we're gonna save the neighborhood and win $20,000 and some of which is not a problem. We just didn't see Step Up or any of those films as the standard.
Right.
We didn't think that should be the standard of how people should perceive dance. And learning from the people we grew up watching, we were like, okay, we're gonna just do this on our own. So we started our own company, MAI, which we produce short films with powerful narratives and storytelling, and it touches on real issues that happen in the world through dance. And that's how we started. We made Color of Reality, and I know you want to get to some of that.
No, we were actually going to ask you about that. So can you tell us a little bit about that particular project?
Yeah, so Color of Reality was a short film project that me and John Books worked on, and John Books actually wrote the story. He wrote the script of it. He wrote that story because I was super busy doing other stuff, and I was in and out on phone calls with him, and he just had this idea and this passion he really wanted to get out, and we both worked on that story together. So he told me about the story he wrote. I said, okay, let's make this happen. I was there to make it happen with him, and we actually found out about Alexa Mead at that summit. And our friend Jeff reminded us, you remember this artist Alexa Mead? And then that's when I first saw her, and I saw all of the powerful artwork she's put out. She paints people and the environment to make them look two-dimensional. So if you've never seen Alexa Mead's work, she'll literally paint all of you in the room and then paint the whole room to where you look like a Van Gogh painting almost. And then and then she'll just take freeze frame pictures and stills of it, and then she'll have a little video of people just moving, and it freaks people out. But we were the first people who've come to Alexa Mead about an actual, dance film with some substance behind it, something real behind it. And she was all for it. We had a meeting with her, And me and John Books broke down the story to her. We said we wanted to bring in the millennials too. Mm-hmm. You know, we wanted to bring in people, you know, the young people and people who really need to know about it, people in our environment who needed to see things, you know, who were really inspired by things like that. And so we were like, okay, we have this powerful story to tell. How can we really do this without, you know, how can we just bring people into it? You know, how can we make this something that people that would want to share, that people would want to just see over and over again. So we were like, let's just get painted, man. Let's just get painted. And we use the actual color. It's a long story that goes behind it, but long story short, a lot of those colors have meanings behind it. There were some subliminals in the film about a lot of different things, but ultimately it was about police gun violence that was happening in the environment, you know, and in our environments, and the police brutality that was happening during that time, and it's still going on. But we really just wanted to, you know, say something with our movement. Right. That.
Did you know that was something, had you already had an idea that you needed to relay this sort of political message via your art form before you met Alexa Mead, or was it kind of like...
Yes, that's how it happened. No, we already had this idea, and then that's how that idea came across. Like, Boogs was thinking of, he actually saw this picture on her page of this man watching a TV, and he was painted, and he was watching this TV, and he was painted within the TV too. So it was like he was watching himself. And Books saw that as this man, almost like he, you know, how we live in our own bubble and we don't know what's going. You know, we just see what's being given to us through the media and everything. And John Books just sparked an idea in him, like, what if we sat down on his couch and you was just watching what was going on in the news and we were affected by it, you know? Right. So that's how that happened, and that whole story got built. And so yeah, everything just started with us wanting to tackle certain, you know, social issues that really hit home to us, and you know, it went from there. And we all, you know, through the power of collaboration is how my whole career got started. So me and Books was all about that, and still all about that. That's why we collaborate with different artists like Alexa Mead. Right. Even music artists. Wonder Girl, who makes beats she's the main person who makes beats for Travis Scott and all these. She produces for a lot of big artists. She made that beat that was in that film. So we just cross collab with different artists to make something just bigger than ourselves.
So these cross-disciplinary collaborations are a big theme here at Vail. Is that something that, because you started coming here around the time that your career was launching, is that something that you sort of learned here and saw the power of?
Yes, absolutely. I'd always push that in John Book's face. Like, look, we can do it on our own, but it's nothing like coming together, like how me and you came together and got things done. We need to do the same thing for other artists because it's not happening enough. We don't get enough of those cross-disciplinary collaborations. And he agreed, and we just went about it. And you know, we believe in each other, so whatever somebody has something to say like that, we're like, let's go for it, man. Let's do it.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you'll be performing here at the festival this season? So
this season I'm performing a lot of different things, a lot of new things. So some of it I don't know yet. And a lot of it I know exactly what I'm performing. So today I'm actually performing with John Books, my co-founder. We're going to do an excerpt from our actual evening length show that we've put together and directed, and going to start touring in the fall because we have our own company, like you said, MAI, and under that umbrella is short films and live, you know, dance and music. So we created this stage show, and it's called Love Heals All Wounds. We're going to do an excerpt from that called Transcendence, actually called Isms. It's called Isms. The song is called Transcendence, but the dance piece, we call it Isms. And it's just a riff from our show, and it's beautiful. It's we're gonna explain that later, like the details in that show, if you guys get a chance to come out. But
you'll be speaking with.
Yeah, we'll be speaking as well again with John Buggs on everything that we'll be doing, and I'm also performing. You know, we're doing a 2.0 version of that jam we did when we popped off the festival. That was pretty fun. So we're doing another version with Michelle Dorrance and a few more other people who's joining in and making it even crazier. And so yeah, that's International Evenings, and then I'm performing a lot. After that, I have no clue. I'm doing my own. I'm also performing something with Caroline Shaw called the 45th. Is it the 40? Yeah, the 45th. Am I getting it right or wrong? It's 42nd.
We might not know.
I'm still waking up. I'm sorry. It's 42nd. Yes, the 42nd Amendment. There we go. Yeah, you're
Looking
right.
forward to that.
Okay. Yeah.
We have just one last question before we defer to our audience. But is there one memory in particular, an experience here in Vail that really stands out to you as something you may not have been able to do if it weren't for this festival?
I wouldn't say an actual. Well, I think my first year here, just the whole experience. I mean, I can't even think of one like that. Just me, just how people take me in Vail, you know, because I came out here and honestly, I didn't know how many people were gonna take Memphis Jookin in. I was like, okay.
But you're a rock star.
And I just love how people are taking in my culture because, yeah, I mean, it was introduced to most of you through ballet and through that cross collaboration I've had with classical, but to be here and to be able to actually show you the raw nature of Memphis Jookin like I have these past years and where it really comes from and the music it comes from and how you guys are still, you know, you still accept it. It's just been amazing. That was one of the amazing things I've ever saw, like how Memphis Jookin, you know, such a street dance form, indigenous dance just get accepted wherever it is.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think we have time for a couple of questions. If anyone has anything.
No?
No.
I know some of y'all got some questions. Come on now. There we go.
Here's right.
We'll go.
So you got your film. Where can we see it?
My film, The Color of Reality. So we have a website, movementartis.com, and it has most of our films that all of our films actually that we've directed and choreographed. There's also a film called Am I a Man that we've done in collaboration with Brian Stevenson. And we shot that in Toronto, and it was brilliant. It was about the mass incarceration system. And we have a bunch of different films. We have another film called Honor Thy Mother. It's about honoring Mother Nature. It's about this whole story of Mother Nature and our relationship with Mother Nature. And movementartis.com. You can check it out. It's also on our Instagram, same thing, movementartis. And that's where you can find it.
Great.
In the back, sorry. Go ahead.
What is your favorite collaboration with another person from another dance form that you've done in Vail?
Shantala. Has anybody seen me collaborate with the Indian dancer Shantala, who does Kuchipudi?
That was great.
My favorite so far. One of my favorites. I have many favorites. Budget Boger with Tyler Peck is one of my favorites too. It's like a classic hit, of course. But Shantala, the routine that I've made, that me and Shantala came up with together, had so much substance in it, and we made it in like 2 days.
I love that.
And that's what happens with a lot of people out here. But it was such different cultures. It's Memphis Jookin and it's Kuchipudi Indian dance, you know, and
so cool.
And we just brought them together so seamlessly, and the whole process of making that performance was just smooth because Shantala was a huge fan of Jookin. She wanted to learn it, and I was a huge fan of Indian dance and really wanted to learn it. So we were just excited about making everything up, and we just believed in each other. Oh, I have this idea. Okay, let's do it. And it was so fast, man. I loved it.
That's great. One more question.
How and when did you get the name Lil Buck?
That's a good question. I was around 14 years old, I think, when I got the name Lil Buck, because when I started, I was 13 and I got good really fast. So, no, I think I was around 15. I'm sorry. Kind of over-exaggerating. I was around 15 when I got that name because I had many names. My first name was The Truth, but it was spelled D-A, Truth. You know how we do. And so, because I thought I was the truth at the dance. You know? I thought I was just living truth. I was like super confident. I would watch You Got Served all the time, and I would just mimic everything they do and be like, okay, I got this. I'm on point. But another Jooker started calling himself The Truth, and he had a bigger fan base than I did, so everybody knew him as The Truth. So I was like, okay, I got to change it up. And then I was like, you know what? Just call me Buck. Because I get Buck. Because the style that I did, so a lot of people don't know this either. Memphis Jookin is under the Gangsta Walk umbrella. So it's like under this umbrella you have Memphis Jookin, which is the evolution of gangsta walking. It's in its entirety. And in different neighborhoods they call it different things. So in my neighborhood where I was in South Memphis, they call it bucking. And in North Memphis, where Memphis Jookin and gangsta walking originated, was called Jookin. And where Elvis lived, you know, in Graceland and in Whitehaven, they called it chopping. So in different neighborhoods, they would call it different things. And it's a different way of moving as well through Jookin. So in chopping, they would be chop, 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 chop.
Interesting.
That's what they focused on.
Yeah.
Bucking was more the explosiveness and explosive moves, just doing crazy eye-catching moves, but keeping musicality at the same time. And Jooking was more of the basic, you know, having more of the fundamental and foundational moves within your dance, like the gangster walking and all. It's a blend of all of it. That's what Jooking was. And I was more of a bucker because I was super explosive. I would always, you know, like I said, I would watch different movies and learn how to flip and add so many different things to elements to my dance that I was a bucker. So I was like, just call me Buck. And then I would battle these guys who were like older than me and been in the game longer than me because I had just started when I was like 13 and people would grow up doing this. Like there's kids who grew up doing this. My mom used to gangster walk. Like it was crazy. Like it's actually a part of our culture. And I would destroy these guys. I would I would battle and because I would go so hard. Like I was literally training sun up, you know, dusk till dawn, like literally in the carport training, bloody toenails. I went through it all. Like I went through everything a ballet dancer has to go through, I think. Because I would literally walk around on point in soft shoes, really soft shoes, and to try to train my toes to get to the level where they are now. And so I would just go through all of this madness just to get to heaven, you know? And because I thought I had to. And it was a point where my toenails were coming out. I was peeling them off. It was crazy. I don't want to get too graphic, but going back to the question, I was super explosive. So I would win so many battles, and one day people just started calling me Lil Buck. The community just started calling me Lil Buck because I was short, I guess, and I would call myself Buck. So they were like, man, Lil Buck, you got to get that guy, Lil Buck. I want to see him battle. And I just started hearing Lil Buck everywhere, and it just stuck with me.
And when you say battle, you mean?
Dance battles, yeah, competing, yes, competitions, yes.
Time for maybe one more quick one. Yes.
I have to confess my bad. It's not 42nd, it's 24th.
It is 24th, right? 24th is, yeah, I was thinking 45th, 23rd. Yeah, it's 24th Amendment. That's right. It's okay.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing that for sure.
Yes, that's going to be good.
What night is that?
That is tonight.
Woohoo.
Well,
get your tickets.
At the Valar, be there.
thank you all so much for coming out. And
Thank you
for
all.
joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all.